Welcome back to the Networking Spark. Today I'm going to be interviewing Kanebaron from the Podcasters podcast. So it's really exciting to be interviewing an expert in podcasting. Have a listen, see what you can learn, and let's dive deep into the man that is Kanebaron. Kane, thank you so much for coming on the Networking Spark podcast. I am extremely grateful to have you here. Would you please just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey? Where did you start? Where are you now? And where do you aspire to be?
That's a fucking massive question.
To start with.
Yeah, right. So my name's Kanebaron. I work in the podcasting space. I run Progressive Media, UK's largest podcast agency. Where I started. Where do you want me to begin? What age?
Let's start when you worked in a certain coffee shop and you met a certain person.
Okay, good start, because I was going to go right back to my mum's cesarean, which probably would have been. Okay, so at 16, I got my first job, which would be at Costa Coffee, Peterborough drive-thru, if anybody wants to know. And I was very blessed to have seen a regular called Rob Moore. Now, some of your listeners will probably know who he is. Must be him and his business partner must be worth close to 100 odd million nowadays, and probably the wealthiest, or definitely the top up there in Peterborough. So here's the thing, right? So the drive-through would open at 5 a.m., which means I'd start my shift at about 5 to 5 to get there to open it, and most people wouldn't be there except Rob. He would beat me there, and he'd be there at 10 to 5. So much so that we'd even close off the drive-through. There'd be like a cone or like a rope or whatever. He'd get out of his car, open it, drive in, and he'd be ready there for open. Always got the first coffee. You know, clearly loves his Costa. Like on Christmas Eve, he would buy 2, because the only day of the year we're shut is Christmas, and that way he could microwave it. But he always tipped really well, and I thought it was always really nice. But the thing that, sparked my interest at 16 is...
Good word, by the way.
I thought so. That's good. Well, one day comes in his daily, which would be the Porsche, and it might be a Range Rover, retro Ferrari. He's got a Lamborghini. Again, it keeps keeps changing. It's like,
what does this guy do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
And he said, started in property, has a training business, but he was like, I retired, and now I'm like a full-time podcaster. I was like, okay, that's interesting. And he would come around and share, I'm going to see David Goggins today. I'm going to see Jordan Peterson today. It's like, well, I know these names. Like, I follow these people. This is really interesting. And clearly you're making a lot of money from it. Now, that kind of went away a little bit when I went to university. So I went to Lincoln University, did a law degree. I think most of that's just a chip on my shoulder of wanting to prove something. So I did that, but
That's quite a heavy degree as well. How did that go?
Yeah, all right. Well, this is the thing. I think I've always been motivated by money, because I remember how old would I have been? I would have been 11.
Yeah, let's go back a bit. Why?
Yeah, so when I was in year 6, I would have been 11. The primary school I went to was doing career assemblies, where various kids' parents would come in and do the assembly. And one lady was a solicitor, and she just had a nice car and said she went on lots of holidays each year. And so that sounds lovely.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, pretty much. So from then up until uni, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And definitely not the brightest, but I was like, all right, fine. I'm not going to do the best on my exams, but how do I get a personal in? So I just did from year 10, 11, 12, 13 through sixth form. And then my first and second year of uni, I did a ton of work experience. Every Easter, Christmas, holiday, any extended break, I would just do work experience, email a bunch of local firms can I come for a week? Hoping that I would get an in, or do my degree and then can come back. Because with law, you have a 3-year degree. Then you have to do your equivalent of what would be a master's, but specifically in law, which is 2 years part-time, 1 year full-time. So if you're doing that full-time, that's your 4 years. And then you need to do your training contract, which is 2 years after that within a firm. But you have to be like, selected and sponsored, and it's quite an ordeal to go through the whole application process. And you have to begin that like a year before university ends. So you got to be really organized.
So you need a bit of drive as well, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. And like, there's only so many firms, there's only so many spaces. So if you're, the one of the Oxbridge students or a top student at maybe like a Russell group, you're probably okay, as well as you've got something else as well. Like you can have good grades, but you need to have got a personal in, or head of the law society, or like some of these things. I'm pretty sure in Lincoln it was a smaller class, and it was 300 year one. I think about 100 of them or a third of them fell off by the second year. But there was only one person, my friend Danny. I think him, maybe one other person, actually got a training contract whilst at uni. Like, it's really competitive. So I thought, like, from year 10, I was like, cool, let me find an in. And then by the time my second year was like coming to an end, I was like, yep, this is fucking miserable. I hope you don't mind me swearing on your
Absolutely
you're
not.
editing.
Well,
a job. It's like, yeah, I was like, I'm absolutely not doing this, because I saw my my ghost of Christmas future when I was doing my final bit of work experience over the Christmas holiday in my second year. And it was, I can't remember her name, but day one, I was there for 2 weeks. It was in the mail room, which was like pretty standard. And there was a girl there who was, I would have said, much brighter than me naturally. She was about to turn 30 in the mailroom, hoping to get her training contract. So she still hasn't even done her 2 final years. So it's like, even if you get one in September, you're 30, close to 31, plus another 2 years. So you're 33 and really starting your career. And I was like, fuck, I need to get out of this.
Big realization, right?
Yeah, 100%. And then the rest of the time, I was like, this isn't fun. And don't get me wrong, like, my favorite show is Suits, but I was under no illusion that this is going to be anything like TV. But generally, you do specialize, and then you just do the same thing, like the same contracts, the same stuff, just day after day after day. It's like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
So you decided to go and work in Starbucks instead?
No, not quite. So this is, right, by the way, complaint about Student Finance England, because my parents got kind of fucked in 2008 crash, and then they sold their house and they rented for a lot of years. And then my dad ended up taking out a portion of his pension, so him and my mum could buy their first house in sort of '08. That would have been, when did I go to uni? Like 2018. Like literally as I was going to uni. And neither of my parents was on like a big salary by any means, but they take that into consideration. So I got the minimum maintenance loans. I was like, fucked. I had no money at all. I was on like an £8 a week food budget, like going to Home Bargains for some questionable chicken.
If it was
ropey.
chicken.
Yeah, probably not, but it was ropey. So what I was doing in that time at uni was ended up getting a job originally working at a promotion company for nightclub events, which my friend Kudzi got me into. And then him and I started doing really well. I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, we could just do our own. So that's exactly what we did. So that'd be like flyering, ads, like helping, like going into all of the societies and getting them to like, get the president to tell them that, oh, next week's social is at this club, and they can bring 100 people to them. So that was really like helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I was part of the Law Society, which I think was the biggest one on campus. There was about 200 people. So we was filling like events pretty easily. And that's what I did to pay my rent. I would go door to door. Lincoln's got a lot of, it's quite quaint in a way. And there's a lot of like independent places like shops and bookstores and coffee shops. It's quite nice. But none of them have a clue about social media or websites or anything, but they all need them, because most of them going out of business. So that's what I did, was basically door-to-door sales, saying like, do you want a website? Do you want on social media? Whatever. So I spent a few years, mostly my second year and third year, doing that. Definitely my third year, I neglected my degree a fair bit, because once I'd switched off, I was like, I'll finish it, but I don't really care about it. I think I finished with a 2-2 or whatever. I was like, fucking amazing that.
So you got them. You got it.
Yeah,
That's the most important bit.
Pretty much.
I guess.
I was surprised I even managed that. That was also like COVID year as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh, well, congratulations.
Well,
that
thanks.
is an achievement.
Yeah. And then as soon as COVID hit and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this, I remembered that Millionaire from before. So I just messaged him on Instagram saying like, here's what I've been doing. Here's what I think my skill set is. Like, I know about your businesses. They do events. They do all these things. Like, can I help in sales or marketing? Like, what can I do? And then I got very lucky. So my first interview, well, first of all, he replied and was like, yeah, sure. Like, here's my HR email, like person in HR, like just message them. And I got an interview and it was with two people. One that was like head of his sales department and one was a guy called Tom, who's his head of innovation. And basically, I think Tom pulled rank and he was like, yeah, I'm having that one. And they needed some help in the podcast agency for looking after clients, sales, marketing, like everything. But it's pretty much just run by creatives.
What do you think you said to Tom to make him change his, well, not change his mind, but decide?
I don't know. Perhaps it was the experience from uni and things like this of doing more than just like sales. Because what happened was when Rob retired for like the 12th time, which I think was the last time, he started his podcast, which was called Disruptive Entrepreneur, now called Disruptors, in January 2016. And he doesn't do anything by half measures, so he hired a bunch of people to do that. So graphic designers, audio engineers, video editors, built a studio, like all these things, and realized that they don't, his one show doesn't take up all of their time.
Mhm.
This is not hired a jack of all trades. It's just gone for experts. Being an entrepreneur and wants no waste, would then go out to his network and his friends going, oh, this podcast is doing quite well for me. Do any of you want them? You can pay me and you can use my team. So they sort of had like a small amount of clients and a small-ish team, but they're all just creatives. So designers, website builders, audio engineers, videographers, and there's generally those people are quite passionate about the thing that they do. They couldn't care less about money or sales or have that commercial sense that I think Rob or Tom wanted. Tom, although by trade as a designer, is very commercially minded. I think it's quite rare. So I think that was probably the help, was that it's not just like done cold calls for a while. It's like, although I've done quite a lot of sales, it was mostly through trying to get my own clients for this other thing that I was doing, which was basically just a marketing agency. So it was so similar. And that was lucky because basically I just then spent the next 18 months with Rob and Tom constantly, all the time, every day, learning everything there is to know about the podcasting space, digital marketing, social media, YouTube, sales, selling one-to-one, selling one to many, and all these things. I really landed on my feet. Whereas if I went into the other team for one of his other companies, it would have been a small cog in a much bigger machine. So I think like that access meant I landed on my feet well. And then basically after 11 months there, Rob was like, cool, the reins are yours. Go.
Wow.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
Did that for, I don't know, two and a bit years, still as an employee. And then about a year ago, it'll be in a month, 1st of July, be a year till I basically become a contractor and basically have a percentage of this. So
Sure.
and I see it as mine.
So right now, how old are you?
25.
And do you love what you do?
Yeah. I haven't had the Sunday feeling in like 3 years.
That's good. That's a good place to be.
Hey, do you want to create the opportunity to step away from your business so you can work on it rather than in it? Do you need some rest and restoring time so that you can take some time to look after your body, your health, and your mind and come back stronger and better and full of creative ideas? I'd love to invite you to come on a retreat with me where we have a regular yoga practice. We have some beautiful conversations, meditations, massage, all sorts of wellness practices to really create the best version of you and for you to rest and restore and come back stronger. So if you'd like to learn more, then reach out to me, send me a DM or have a look at my website, yogitribe.com. That's yogitribe.com and look at the retreats on there.
We'll move on to where you aspire to be in a moment. But first of all, I'd like to just introduce. So this podcast, The Networking Spark, has got 4 different chapters, so to speak. Okay, so we've got successful entrepreneurs, the power of networking, so people that have really got so much from their network that's really helped them, millionaires, and failure, success stories after failure, which may well happen to people maybe a little bit older than yourself.
Yeah.
But which of those categories do you fit into the most, would you say?
Well, I'm not a millionaire yet.
Yet, I like that.
It's coming. I suppose networking. I think I've got a very strong network.
Right? Because your network is your net worth.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
What's your net worth, Kane?
Never worked it out. But I spend too much money. I don't buy enough assets. I'm like, Rob keeps telling me.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, I don't know. That's a lie because there's now a percentage of the agency. I don't know. What is my net worth? I'd have to figure it out.
If you figure that out by the end of the episode that we're doing now, then please let us know.
Yeah, sure.
But carry on with what you were saying. So networking.
Yeah, I think fortunately, and again, it stems from Rob. I think I probably have more millionaires in my phone book than most people. I just have people in their phone book. Got a billionaire.
Right.
Which is pretty cool.
Are you able to introduce me to any of those that would make a fantastic podcasting guest?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's important.
Thank you.
That's right. I think, yeah, I'm very, very fortunate. It's a funny story. So, you know Matt Fidesz, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I was in Dubai, I don't know, about a month ago. No, April. It was Easter holidays, right? I was in Dubai with my girlfriend. And I uploaded an Instagram story. I'm in the mall. And he texted me going, I'm like 100 feet away from you. I'm like, well, first of all, that's a really creepy message to him. Like, he's a big dude. Like, and I
and a bit of a martial arts expert as well.
Yeah, he'd fuck me up like this. So I just turned to my girlfriend. She's got no idea who he is. I've never really said. And I was like, oh, do you want to meet Michael Jackson's bodyguard? She's like, what?
Random.
I was like, he's in Wagamama's now. Let's go for dinner. By the way, he's worth over 100 million and he's eating in Wagamama's. Like, nice. Very, very humble. You could, in Dubai especially.
And what did she say? No, sorry, I want to go shopping.
Yeah. Well, no, we'd fucking been in there 12 hours. I was done.
God.
Yeah, it's a big old place. I was done. So yeah, we went and I was like, oh, this is Matt. He was Michael Jackson's bodyguard, but like very, very strange. And yeah, worth like well in excess of 100 million, probably multiple 100 million, who knows?
Was he by himself or with his
No, he's with
lady?
his family. He was out there doing a bunch of podcasts and doing like the rounds and getting his brand out there. It's pretty recent. But that happens fairly frequently. I think we was meant to film this in Bromley, which is actually where I was born. So
yeah.
But I know quite a few people down there. So I was like, oh, okay, I can probably like maybe get another podcast or whatever whilst I'm down there. I think it's so important because I'll get messages with opportunities a lot. Normally referrals. Get a lot of business through referrals. And I think it's important. Like one of the things that I'll teach clients that are trying to like improve their sales or whatever is like, just go through your phone book and go, I've got this product. Who do you know that might be interested? Rather than calling up people in your phone, but like, buy my shit. Like, that's a bit icky, right? It's not very nice. Some of them will go, I know somebody. Some of them will just go, yeah, I do know somebody. Me, right? I didn't know you did that. But a personal endorsement, like we've seen, our conversions like double. We've got like a referral program. 52% of people or the leads that come from referrals buy. So that's really important. So that, like, fine, you might not have like a full affiliate program in your business, but your network's pretty fucking important. And I think if you show up well, and that's both in person and online, and people know who you are and what you're about and what your beliefs are, I think that's really important because then you will just get people go, oh, you need a podcast, I'll go to Kane.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
So would you say you've built up your network via podcasting, and podcasting is a good form of networking?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, if there was somebody that you really admired that you wanted to get in front of? If you go, oh, like, can I take you for a drink? It's like, no. So I can't remember who it was. There's a story of Warren Buffett. I can't remember the name of his mentor. And he was an investment banker on Wall Street. I could probably Google it. And when Warren was sort of younger and trying to get into Wall Street, he went to this hedge fund manager and said, like, can I shadow you for free? Like, you won't even know I'm there. And the response was, your price is too high. Because I don't know where this like bullshit advice come from of like, oh, find somebody that's like really inspirational or who you want to be like and just say, like, can you shadow them for free? It's like, that's really inconvenient. Like, fine, you might work for them for free, but then if you're just around all the time, like, that's really annoying.
And a bit spooky.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, you can't do that. But I have a podcast, which is a platform where you can talk about yourself for an hour, which is most people's favorite subject, right? Will you come on? Most people are like, yeah. And a lot of the time, I think because podcasting is really popular at the moment, we expect everyone's got one and everyone's been on one, but most people have never been asked to go on a podcast, and you might have experienced it. So when you go, oh, do you want to come on my podcast? I go, like, I'll be on it. Like, thanks so much. Like, that's so kind. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, is it?
Some people get a bit flustered.
Yeah.
Oh, me.
Yeah, because they've never been asked before.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great way because you get to spend an hour with them or more, right, depending on the content, and really get to know them on a human level. And then by the time you've done that, well, you've got them. Do you know what I mean? Like, it may be, we've got some clients that want to close that person for a sale for their business. So they'll get them on ahead of time, build that rapport, ask them about themselves, and then pitch them after, float the idea. I've had some podcasters who want sponsorship. Again, same thing. Come on. Did you enjoy it? Yeah, great. Love the podcast. Love the studios. It's really well done. Great. If we're looking for partners. Do you want me to consider you? Also, you don't have to ask for something every time. Sometimes you can just build that relationship. I always recommend people get the guest's phone number. Be like, if you're doing a video podcast, like we're filming, multiple camera angles now, like if you then create a few clips of the guest and be like, oh, what's your number? I'll send you the clips or the photos of you that my producer took. Then you've got their number.
And then you've built your black book.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously send them the photos or the videos or whatever. But then if there's anything that's reminds you of them or whatever, send it to them. Perhaps you bump up the charts once you've had them on, or one of the clips you post semi-viral. Post them. By the way, everybody loves the content.
Do you ever film or record a podcast and then later that night go, shit, why didn't I ask them
all
that?
The time.
Yeah.
Normally like 5 minutes after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're normal.
Yeah, 100%. No superpowers here. I think everybody must do that. I guess if you go in like full Stephen Bartlett and you're filming like 3-4 hours, you're probably going to get most of it down. But I mean, I don't know, maybe even him and Joe Rogan still finish it and go, damn, should have asked that.
For someone that is perhaps thinking of doing a podcast, or someone that's maybe doing one at the moment, what would be your 3 biggest tips?
This is just a question for you. Does that answer you?
I haven't got this question written down. It was just that we were talking about podcasting, and I thought, because a lot of the audience for the Networking Spark are basically, business owners, entrepreneurs, and it's becoming more and more popular for people to be starting their own podcasts. And since I have begun, doing this podcast myself, I'm having a lot of people reach out to me going, Jess, can you give me some advice on making a podcast?
Have you had anybody pitch you to come on your show yet?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you turn them down? Or are they coming on?
No, I haven't turned anyone down yet, but I am just starting out, to be fair.
I think it'll become more common once, you're live and you've been doing it for quite a while. People will tend to pitch you to come on, which is, I don't know if you remember this, like before you decided like, oh, I'm going to do this, like feeling a bit nervous about asking people, like, will I get guests? Won't I get guests?
Yeah,
things like this.
Actually, I have sort of turned someone down when I've asked somebody, can you recommend some guests that you think would be brilliant? And I've looked and thought, not really sure they're suitable. So I sort of have.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Okay, so what was it? 3.
3 top tips for a
Okay.
podcaster without giving away your secret sauce, because obviously, this is something that you do, run a podcasting course.
I think it's fine. My philosophy is just give it all away for free anyway. People will still buy it.
Yeah. I mean, go on, like your top tips for getting somebody to open up.
All right, that's a good one. All right, so first of all, I think top tip with all podcasts, you need to niche down. Like, if you got a really broad podcast, like for example, comedy. Who likes to laugh? Well, fucking everybody but psychos. It's a pretty broad market. You have to be exceptional to stand out because it's so hard to market that podcast. So, who likes to laugh? Yeah, oh, listen to my podcast. Whereas it's really funny. So you probably remember, I always use, I don't know where I got it from, the example of like, marketing podcast for hairdressers. And then on one of my events, I actually had somebody who had like a marketing agency for hairdressers. I was like, fuck, nice. But to be fair, I had been using that example for 2 years prior. So niching down, like with that example, like a marketing podcast for salon owners or whatever, it's like, where do you market it? Well, door to door, if you wanted to, like you really wanted to. But there'll be Facebook groups for those people. There'll be LinkedIn groups for those people. There'll be trade shows and conferences for salon owners. Like, it just makes it so much easier to promote it because those groups already exist. And then secondly, if I'm looking for a new podcast and one is just the marketing podcast, but one is a marketing podcast for salon owners, and I'm a salon owner, I'm like, well, that one's for me. It says it on the title. It's for me. So you're going to get more people click on it, right? So that's tip 1 generally of podcasting. Now that it's talking about people opening up, silence is important. Nice. Let's see who's going to win. I think you will know this from networking events. If you stand at the back of the room and watch people do their elevator pitch, they go, shake their hand. I'm Kane. I've got a podcast. Blah, 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 blah. Next person. I'm Kane. And they say the same thing to everyone. And even though we don't necessarily in the morning look in the mirror and plan what we're going to say in every interaction, your long-term memory kicks in and you end up saying the same things. I've done our 3-day podcast training, I don't know, maybe 50 times, potentially. It's 3 full days, like 9 till 6:30 of content. And yet, I would say outside of like Q&A and sort of ad-lib bits, the content, I probably deliver 95%, if not more, the same word for word. Not because I have rehearsed it that way, because you don't really practice 3-day courses, like who's got the time. But I've just done it so many times, you kind of get into a flow of, oh, I said this, and I said this, and it's all subconscious. And I think people do that. Like if you ask me my story, for example, and somebody else asks me and somebody else asks, it's going to be pretty much the same. Whereas when you just like shut up and just look at them, then we feel awkward and then we're like, oh, fuck, I've got to fill this void. Yeah, exactly. And then the lips start moving quicker than the brain, and then we just sort of, stuff comes out.
Verbal diarrhea.
Yeah, and it's like, should I have said that? Shouldn't I have said that? Oh, I don't know, but I said it. Fuck, right, it's out there now. I think silence is really important.
The best piece of advice I've had recently, I asked a question, which is, how do I stop saying and the advice was just pause.
Yeah.
Makes you sound more intelligent, which I thought was brilliant.
Ash always moans that. So Ash is the co-host of my podcast, and he always moans that I speak really slowly.
I don't think you do.
Yeah. I think I talk maybe slightly slower than average, and he talks a bit faster than average, but I'm much easier to edit. I've done speaker training, he hasn't. Generally, to avoid filler words, I'll pause and I'll think about it. So that way it's a bit easier just to cut that, whereas he will generally ramble into, like, words will connect with filler words and kind of like this, and it's really hard to cut, but it speeds it up.
So would you say you're a better podcaster than Ash?
Oh, 100%. All day long. Yeah.
Who takes the piss the best?
Oh, me. Yeah. He's, I made him. And he can't stand up for himself.
I might have to ask Ash to come on.
Do it.
Mm.
Your listeners will be bored. So I'm
Bless. I love. So what about those 3 top tips then, Kane?
Right. So niching down, being silent, collaboration's important. Right, along the lines of networking again, I think one of the questions I get people to ask themselves, like if they're doing our training, and I get it all the time, like I've 50-year-old business owner, perhaps done really well, but never done the social thing. It's okay. It's just, instead of moaning about you don't have your audience, the question is, who has my audience and what can I give them? Because there's plenty of people with newsletter lists of tens of thousands of people, or they've got a Facebook group or a LinkedIn group, or they've got a big podcast themselves. So collaborate. There's 400,000 active podcasters. Divide that up between different languages and countries and niches and subtopics. There's not that many people doing what you're doing, realistically. And they're going to appeal to different people, even if they are in the same industry. Right, look on social media. There is Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, right? The 6 main... Did I say Instagram? I don't know, right? About 6 platforms. And most people have about 2 hours a day they can really go on those platforms combined, because they require your eyes, ears, and hands. I call it like your scroll time, right? You can, but you shouldn't be doing it when you're driving, or you won't do it when you're running or in the shower. Like, very inconvenient. So there's 6 platforms, 2 hours a day, and they're all competing. Or a podcast you can listen to idly, audio. So people might be listening to this in the shower, at the gym, driving, on a smart speaker whilst they're doing chores. You can do it whilst doing other things. So there's one platform, maybe 5-6 hours a day you can listen to 7 days a week.
And you can learn so much.
Exactly. So there's less competition for the attention. So what I'm trying to say is, if there's, I don't know, 10 really well-known people on Facebook or Instagram in your niche, that might be really competitive, because I'm only spending 15 minutes a day on Facebook and then 15 on Instagram, 15, etc. Whereas on the podcast, if there's, let's say, 10 or 15 podcasts that are all 45 minutes long, well, I could listen to all of those in sort of 2 or 3 days, and I've still got half the week left. So competition's not really an issue. And you can guest on other people's podcasts and collaborate with these people. Go like, I'll promote your newsletter if you promote the podcast or whatever. Just by asking. I've got a guy, Danny. He's got a really cool podcast concept, which is like history of each of the squares on the Monopoly board. It's a really cool idea, like really unique. And he didn't really know who to approach for sponsorship. So I was like, fuck it, City of London, see what happens. Right? It's Monopoly, it's whatever. And they've gone, no, but we could probably put you on the side of a bunch of buses for free.
For free?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, well, that's pretty good.
That's sponsorship enough.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Is that fine? It's not cash in the bank, but that's going to grow the podcast enough to then easily find another sponsor. Like, no
That's
worries.
huge.
So who's got your audience? So collaboration, shut the fuck up, and niche down would be the 3 biggest ones.
Love it. Thank you, Kane. Who has been, so how many, let's just give me a rough idea. How many people have you interviewed?
I don't do many interviews on the podcast. Mostly it's Ash and I. Mostly. And that's, 1, because I'm a bit lazy. 2, our audience just reacted well to that, so we just doubled down on it. And 3, because I'm a bit lazy.
That's okay. I mean, you're 25.
Yeah.
Most, 25-year-olds and younger are, but actually, I think you're quite driven. I think you're quite inspiring for where you've got to today for your age. So
Thank you.
That's wicked. But you have definitely interviewed a few people.
Yeah,
right?
maybe like 20, 25. I've done quite a few interviews on stage.
Cool.
I've interviewed people that way, but on the podcast, maybe sort of 20 or 25.
So that's going to make this question really easy then. Who was your best and favourite person that you interviewed, and who was your absolute worst? And why?
Who was my worst? Who
was a nightmare guest?
I've never had a nightmare guest at all.
Tricky one? Rob Moore, maybe?
So with Rob's, he is, well, if you're new to content, collaborating with podcasters is wonderful because they're used to speaking. They make it really easy for you. They don't give you these like really shitty one-word answers. But I think I did an hour with Rob and asked 3 questions. And he just went, which was wonderful because it meant I can just sit back and he knew what was going to go viral and did all these things. It's wonderful.
And Rob can talk.
Yeah, he can talk. Well, he's got the world record for the world's longest public
Exactly.
talk, right? So I think that was like a day and a half or something stupid. So it wasn't, I mean, in a way, it was the opposite of tricky because I could just sit back and kick it for a bit. I've never had a, well, no. Here you go. Here's my trickiest interview was Meghan Markle's producer at Spotify. Her name was Courtney.
I thought you might say that one.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it. The reason that was really tricky is because she was up to her eyeballs in NDAs. And if she said something she shouldn't have done and we published it, we would also be liable.
Right.
Which is like a fucking
Yeah.
landmine to deal with. So that was a really interesting and probably one of my favorite interviews we've done just because it's a whole different world. Like they'd have 40 people on a shoot. They'd have like 2 runners for 1 podcaster.
Wow.
And it's like, you're sitting down for like an hour or 2 like a week. Like, what do you need runners for? Just bring a bottle of water. Like, it's a whole different world. And she was really negative on the industry. She thought it was declining, which is really funny. I was like, well, we've never been busier.
Mm.
And the listeners have never been higher. And the money being spent's never been more. But basically, they were spending Hollywood money for a season of a podcast. Like, imagine getting 12 episodes out of somebody and paying them 20 or 30 million. There's like main cast actors in like Marvel films that aren't getting paid that sort of money.
Mm.
And you're doing that for a celebrity or a well-known person. Like, I think it was rumored that she got paid $25 million or something around there, $25 million. The Obamas was like the same, and fucking crazy money for just a 3 months worth of episodes.
Yeah.
So of course you're never gonna see a return from that because then you've got all these staff costs and production costs, and when you got 30 people on a team for what? Makes no sense. So that was really interesting because it was like a whole new world. Like I've been in podcasting, but I just never experienced what like the big corporate version was.
Did she come with bodyguards?
I didn't ask, but I would assume so. Funny enough, Matt Fidesz was looked after her before the wedding. There you go. So I know one of her bodyguards. Yeah, it's really bizarre. And this was really interesting. They did some of the interviews where she wasn't there. The producer interviewed the guest. So imagine this, right? You've asked me to come on your podcast.
Yeah.
I rock up. You're not here. Just some producer, Alex, our producer, with a clipboard going, about 20 questions for you. Let's rattle through them. And then what would happen is once the guest is gone in on a completely another day, you would come into the studio. We'd put a camera just on you and you would ask all the questions based on what they said. And then like through editing, they'd stitch that together so it looked like she was interviewing, which was really...
Bit different, huh?
Yeah, kind of...
Awkward?
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
She did the really famous ones like Serena Williams and whatnot, as you would. But yeah, bearing in mind she rumored got paid tens of millions of dollars for like a few episodes, and it took her 2 years to get them done.
Mm.
Like, of course. And by the way, fair play to Meghan. Like, no hate on her for it because it's like, why would you not? You know, if somebody's paying, it's Spotify's fault for thinking that's a good idea. And then after that, and after the Obamas, and they did a few years of acquiring loads of these podcasters, they were just laying off like thousands of employees. Like, yeah, no wonder why. Because you borrowed loads of money during COVID when you could pretty much get loans for less than 1%, hired all these staff or paid for all these podcasters, overspent on them, and then fired a bunch of people and didn't care about it. So I thought that was really interesting. Me and Ash finished that and was like, weird.
How long did that last?
That episode?
Yeah.
Or I think we was on for about an hour, but we was on with her a bit before and a bit after as well. I think there were some bits we had to cut out because she'd accidentally like potentially overlapped what she could have said. So just to be safe, like we didn't want to screw ourselves either.
Yeah. Would you say she was the biggest guest you've had? Like who's the biggest one that you've had?
It would be Rob in terms of following, and then Dodge Woodall as well from the Eventful Lives. We went down to Bournemouth. That was probably my favourite episode we did. It was by far the longest one. I think that was close to 2 hours. And it wasn't necessarily like an interview because it went on his show as well. It was a collaboration episode. So we both sort of just had a conversation back and forth, which was really, really fun. But yeah, that was like the longest episode we'd ever done.
Cool.
And I really like his team and stuff. So that was just like a fun day out, really. I interviewed Jack Sylvester, who was the producer behind Diary of a CEO. So when Stephen...
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting. When Stephen first launched the podcast, Jack was like employee number 1, which was really interesting. So I did that about 2.5, 3 years ago. And it's really funny. In the episode, not long before that, I'd done a talk all about membership sites, subscription revenue, and how it's the future of podcasts. And I asked Jack about it. And I go, would Stephen ever do that? And he got a bit shaky and kind of avoided the question. He was like, no. I pushed him. He was like, no, I don't think so. And you can go listen to the episode. And then like a month later, he was like the first person to roll out Apple subscribers. So now on like Apple Podcasts, you can pay him like $3 a month to remove the ads. So, okay, that was great timing. I probably should have pushed a bit harder.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, man. So like I touched on earlier, like one of the topics I'm covering over this podcast is failures, because I believe actually that we learn by messing up or fucking up, if you want to swear, right? So, and those can be our biggest lessons. So be honest, what has been the biggest like podcast that's gone wrong for you, and what happened? I'm guessing it would be like equipment going wrong, but it might be something different.
Yeah, I mean, equipment goes wrong all the time. And like some of the shoots we've done on Rob's, like we've gone to people and really good names. I remember, who was it? Was it Theo Pathetis? It was one of like the big dragons, and went and everything broke. Like nothing worked. So we literally had to film it on iPhones.
And I can imagine he wasn't very forgiving.
No, it wasn't. Like I think Rob might have been a little bit embarrassed on this because he basically sort of made a few remarks like, "Oh, this is your operation? Is it like a few iPhones?" Basically, like, I thought you were serious. And it's like, you had a team traveling to London, equipment stopped working. Like hands are tied, and you go, right, who's got a phone in their pocket? Good.
What went wrong with the equipment?
I can't even remember. That was a few years ago, but I think maybe it was like some cables or some SD cards or something like that, and it just couldn't do anything. And it was tripods and phones, and that same story has happened with multiple big guests, and it's just part of being a podcaster, especially if you're doing like a traveling shoot. I prefer studio. Less things go wrong. Like we haven't really had anything go wrong on ours. I think one episode the audio was kind of messed up, and that was my fault for not checking it properly. It could have been avoided, and I just made a simple mistake. But with Rob's and like some of our clients, they want the best guests, and to get the best guests soon, sometimes you have to go to them. Like you've experienced it with, you want a good name, and it's like trying to align diaries. Like, oh, I can book the studio this date, and they're like, can't do that one, can't do that one. Like it's taken us a few months to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's traveling, it's like, cool, when do you have 2 hours on a random Tuesday? I'll be at your office. Like with Rob, when he interviewed Ronnie O'Sullivan, went to his house. He's like, really busy? No worries, we'll do it in your house. Like, and that means you get the better named guests much quicker, and there's not so much back and forth, but you run the risk of things going wrong, like getting stuck in traffic, equipment breaking, because you're doing it on the fly, and you're doing sometimes when he interviewed Andrew Tate the second time, flew to Romania.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Couldn't find anywhere, and they ended up filming it in
where
like an art gallery.
Oh, is that
massive,
what it
like domed roof, like tall roof ceiling, dreadful for acoustics. But it's like, what are you gonna do? You've flown like 3 members of staff over, all of the equipment. You've got this guy, and I think he got arrested again like 2 days later. So you never know. Like that could get raided mid-interview.
Yeah.
Like you don't know, and you just got to make it work.
And you have to go to where the guest wants you to go, right?
Exactly.
And then make it work. So you've got to be flexible, adaptable.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No.
Like to do it at the highest standard, it is not easy at all. Which is why people like Bartlett would pay people a bunch of money to go like, we're doing it in my house. Like if they're doing it in the UK, their studio's like in his kitchen in his flat, I think he says. and they've got a great setup and they've got a great team. And it's like, just sit down, everything's working, nothing's in a break. But when you want those really good name guests, like, first of all, you have to have a nice location in London, which is central. And you need to pay these people to come to you rather than them there.
Yeah.
But he's operating at the highest level.
Yeah. Do you get stressed out?
No, never.
Never.
No, it really pisses off my family and my girlfriend.
Just naturally chilled.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, I think it's luck of the draw just being wired that way. Like, I don't have any philosophical...
No tips or...
No, like nothing. I just don't get stressed out. Also, I think I'm aware enough that nothing is an emergency unless it's health. Do you know what I mean? Like, business crumbles, like, okay, like, start a new one. Like, and...
Family?
What do you mean?
Well, for instance, if you found out one of your family members was in a massive amount of trouble and they needed you right now, would that not stress you out?
Not particularly. I think I'm much more, I don't know, pragmatic about things. This may cause me issues in relationships, who knows? Time will tell. But I know the right thing to do is if someone goes, oh, here's my issue, like partner, for example, here's my issue. And it's like, I know I'm meant to listen and be sympathetic, but all I want to do is solve your problem because I can see it in black and white. And I know that's not what you want, but then don't come to me, go to somebody else because that's all I can give you.
I'm one of those people, Kane.
Yeah.
One of those annoying friends that rather than all listen or go, well, why don't you do this?
Yeah. It's that or stop moaning at me.
Yeah.
If you're moaning,
I'm totally with you. I totally get that.
And I think I can't help that, right? It's the way I'm wired, but that also means that I don't really stress about things. And everything other than death is reversible. So, like, for me, unless it's like a medical emergency.
Aging's not.
But then that's not like an issue.
Well, it depends how old you are, Kane.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm hoping my prime's going to be like 50. So I'm like looking forward to the next 25 years. Cool. As long as I look after myself, we'll see.
Yeah.
Right. But I think I'm not going to stress about that either. Like, it's not an issue. Like, some people are just very frantic people.
Yeah.
And every little thing worries them. Every little thing's like causing them stress. First of all, that's going to age you. That's going to take years off your life. This is what I find really funny is the people that are really obsessed with like the perfect morning routine. And I've got to do this and do this and do this and do this and do this. Like, and then I can get to work and then I can do these things. And, you know, if I do these things and I do the cold bath and I do the sauna, then I might live an extra 10 years. Like, but you're going grey worrying about your morning routine. I promise you I will live longer than you because I'm just not stressed about it. And stress is like the biggest killer.
Exactly. Agree. Totally agree. It is. It triggers so many things. So I think you're in a great place at the moment. You're 25. You're doing super well. You've got a massive black book full of like amazing contacts. You've got a brilliant network around you. And you obviously really enjoy what you do. Where do you want to be by the time you're 30? Where do you want to be by the time you're 50? And what legacy would you like to leave? That's a few questions rolled in one.
It is. I don't really ever plan more than like a year ahead. Is the thing. I know people have like your 5-year goal and things like that. And maybe it's just being around Rob so often and knowing how quickly things change. I'm like, I don't even want to bother wasting my time. So one thing I've been thinking about recently is we always talk to people about like niche podcast, niche podcast, niche podcast. Same if you're launching a business, like niche down, get your early clients, and then over time you can broaden out. So a few people have been asking like, well, you've been doing this for like a few years, like, will you broaden out? And initially I was going to say yes. And then I was listening to a podcast with Gary Vee on. I just thought, oh, well, he was saying like, oh yeah, he was doing like the social and YouTube thing in like 2009, 2010. Like, it'd only been around a few years. So I was like, he's doing really well. So I was like, right, there's 400,000 podcasters, 500 million listeners, a lot of money being spent. It's not, especially in the UK, not really anybody doing what we're doing. It's like, what happens if I don't change course for 15 years? So it's kind of been something I've been thinking about. It's potentially could be like massive, enormous, just same but bigger. So that, I guess, which I don't really know what that looks like. I just know that as long as we're doing more content, more views, more speaking, more events, just more of everything, but not just more, but better. I think potentially I can't even imagine where I could be. And I was having this conversation with Ash yesterday, like different business ideas. Right. We thought of different offshoot products or brands that we could make. And it's like, oh yeah, but that hasn't got like a long tail, or like that could get to like a few 100,000, that could get to 1 million, but then I can't see it going beyond then. And then we kind of had to correct ourselves and go like, yeah, but no really successful entrepreneur thinks of the end goal when they launch. Like Facebook was just like, can I message people on this university's campus? And then it's like, oh, it'd be cool if like all college kids could talk. And now it's like everything. There's like an eBay built into it. There's long form video, short form. Like, it's got a dating app in it. It's got everything. But nobody planned that 15 years ago. So I suppose the correction we made yesterday is just keep doing what we're doing and just incrementally increase it and then just see what happens. No idea about when I'm 15. No idea about legacy. I think from my network, I've seen legacy and longevity become important to people who are rich and like above 45.
Okay. And you're not there
Yeah.
yet, right?
I keep seeing that.
Well, let's just rephrase the question then. If you found out tomorrow that you've got 5 years to live, what would be on your bucket list?
I'd just carry on.
What is normal?
Yeah, because here's the thing. Like everyone already, I can't remember what the song's called, but that question gets thrown around. It's like, if you've got X amount of days or years to live, like, what would you do? And then somebody gives a really profound answer. I go traveling. I do that. And everyone goes, oh, well, you should do that then. It's like, but I don't have a week left to live. Like, fingers crossed. I've got like, I don't know, what am I now? 25. Like, maybe another like 60 years, 70 years. Like, who knows?
You don't know though, do you? You don't ever know what's going to happen tomorrow.
But then if I don't get me wrong, I'm not like a complete rise and grind, 4 a.m. work only. Like, I travel a fair bit. I really enjoy traveling. I spend time with friends. Like, generally that's my thing, is experiences. But if you spent your whole life thinking like, what happens if I die next week? 1, miserable. 2, I would get nothing done and I'd go dead broke very, very quickly because I'd spend all my money on really fancy holidays. And I'd be like, oh wait, no, I'm not dead. I need to like pay my mortgage and now I'm fucked, right? So I'm definitely not, like I said, I'm not like no breaks, no holidays, no fun, none of that. Like last year was a good year, like my second year of making like decent money, like actually in the bank. So I went away like 5 times last year. And that was nice. I went away a few times this year already, but now like I've got so many events on that I'm like, cool, I've got out my system.
Living the dream.
Yeah, I think so. But I really like what I do.
So therefore it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, and I think I have this issue with, not an issue, but I had the conversation with my family about this, and that especially like the older generations, they're used to like do the job to pay for like your bills. Like, you don't have to enjoy your job, you don't have to do this, which fine, you don't have to. But they will have their job, they'll have their like family time or social time, and then they'll have their hobbies. It just so happens that all of those things are the same for me. So in the time that you spend of those 3 pillars of your life, if you will, like I spend just as much time at work, but I also work with my best friend. Like, we're together all the time. We do a podcast with him. And I love what I do. I really enjoy all of my clients. Like, we've fired a few clients, but because some of them are ourselves. Generally speaking, all of our clients are great and we love working with them. And it's fun to like play the game of business of like, oh, new massive contract, or oh, like let's try this new thing or test this new thing or run this massive event and get this great speaker. It's like, that's great fun. So it just happens to, for me anyway, that like my social life, my hobby and work are the same thing. So it doesn't bother me if I spend 80 hours a week doing it or 60 hours a week doing it.
Yeah, which is amazing, right? When I was growing up, I thought only lucky people got to do what they love, like a football player. But I think these days it's become far easier to find your passion and turn it into a career.
I think so.
More and more people being self-employed.
Do you love what you do?
Just a bit.
Just a bit.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like work to me at all. I just do a lot.
Yeah.
And people say, Jess, you do so much. How? But I'm a bit older than you, Kane, and so I've had a lot more experiences in life that has made me realise that life is short.
Mm.
So you've got to go out there and do what you want to get done.
Yeah, 100%. I 2 years ago, I lost my dad, and that was like the first thing. I was like, oh, okay, shit, like life is really short. How old? He would have been 59, almost
so
60.
sorry.
That's okay. So I was like, oh, okay, shit, like life is really short.
That is the biggest teacher, isn't it? When you lose someone close to you.
100%. Because that's why I think, like, okay, medical emergencies are the only emergencies. Everything else is completely fixable. And time will fix everything. Anyway, like, as young as I am, that's, I think, not a lesson I would choose to learn.
Has it changed you? Your dad passing? Some people, particularly when it's a man losing their father, I've heard before saying it's made them suddenly decide to become the man of the family, for instance.
Yeah, I think so. Like, my goal this year is to pay off my mum's mortgage. Although I won't send her this podcast because she doesn't know yet.
Ah.
So it was her birthday a few weeks ago, and basically I said, like, next birthday, it'll be done.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
Whereas, like, if he was still around, they were both working, like, that probably would have never crossed my mind. I'd be like, oh, new flashy car or holiday or whatever. But now I suppose I'd just become a little bit more protective, or no, maybe protective is like the wrong word, but like I want to provide more.
Yeah. Has it hit your mum hard losing him?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. They were together like 30 years, so.
So, what, like, so we're kind of coming to a close now, as in, like, people listening that see you age 25 really kind of rocking it. You just said your aim is, which I think is kind of like a legacy in a way, to pay your mum's mortgage off, which I think is brilliant. Age 25, that's pretty cool. So, in terms of people listening, what would be your tip? Say if there's someone that's struggling with confidence, or someone that just keeps trying and is not getting to where they want to be, what are your top tips for the listeners in terms of creating and living their dream life?
That's a good question.
Well, thank you very much from a podcaster.
Yeah. Right. So I think, first of all, having confidence and pretending to have confidence is the same thing. Nobody knows, like, same as, like, who was it? Was it Jacko Wilkins on his podcast? It's like, was talking about being brave. Like, if you're not afraid, then you're not brave. Do you know, like, a professional skydiver instructor, like, isn't brave. It's like just another day in the office. Somebody absolutely petrified of doing it and doing it, you would call them brave. I think confidence is very similar. So when I started and was doing podcasting and speaking, actually, I remember this very clearly. I did a 5-day public speaking training about a month after I launched my podcast, which I'd recommend to all podcasters, or if you do speaking or social media, I think it's good. And I was really nervous, and we started just in these little pods, so there'd be like 5 or 6 of you, and then by the end of the 5 days, you had to do it in front of like a room of 30 odd people. They build you up, and basically my strategy was like, let me like mad dog people. And what I mean is, like, if I just go up there and I'm like, volunteer first, like I'm first up, for whatever reasons, kind of fucked up, I guess, like them going, oh my God, he's so confident, and that makes them more nervous, made me feel better. I don't know why. It's like a psychological thing. And so basically I just kept going like, I'll do it, shitting myself. And then through reps and just doing it, it's like, oh, cool. Like, I didn't die because I spoke in front of people. Like, I'm fine. So that, I think, if you suffer with confidence, like exposure and just doing it and pretending to be confident is the same. Because when you go up on stage, and I find it really hard to watch other speakers now, and they're really like their body language really closed and they're really shaky and jittery. I'm like, I can't get them. Like, next person, please. Like, but that's just because I'm so critical because I've done a lot of training in it. And it's like, sometimes it's endearing, but then sometimes it's like, I'm just getting bored now. But then somebody comes on and they're really like big and they feel the stage and they're really confident and very smiley. They could be absolutely shitting themselves inside. And I know I must, like, physically, I sweat more when I speak. So part of me must feel nervous because when I'm just sitting around, I don't just sweat through a shirt. But it's like you kind of fake it so much until you enjoy it. So that'd be one thing with confidence. I think 2, which would probably be the theme of this, is networking. Like, every single like massive stride I've had through 7 years, so a pretty short career, is pretty much just been, I know someone who knows someone who's opened a door. Every single massive one is, which is why I don't really like people who call themselves like a self-made millionaire. Like, unless in 2020 you put 10 grand on a crypto coin and it went to like £1 million and you sold, then fine. But
That's a gambling millionaire, though.
yes, exactly. Yeah, very true. I think if I reverse the steps and look at the stars backwards, you go, oh, if I didn't go to that event, I wouldn't have met that person, and they wouldn't have introduced me to, like, realistically, if my mum, as soon as I was 16, was like, you're getting a job, and through the company she worked for, she knew somebody who worked like at a shopping center who knows someone, like, through like 3 people removed, my mum basically got me the job at Costa, and she's like, you're going. I was like, cool, great. So like,
And that did you good.
yeah, because then if I didn't go there, I wouldn't have met Rob. And then if I didn't go to uni with my friend who knew somebody who then was in the events business, like, we wouldn't have done that. And then if we didn't do that, my pitch to Rob probably wouldn't have landed because I wouldn't have had any experience he was caring about. And if I didn't meet him, I wouldn't have met, you know, however many millionaires and 100 millionaires and billionaires, and I wouldn't have got this opportunity. So that's like, just go outside. And I think from my friends from school and things that are really struggling in terms of like career and not sure what to do, it's like, nobody expects you to have it figured out by 25 or 30 or 35. Like, most people don't have it figured out. So it's like, just quit and try new things, because I always link it to like a game analogy. Like, if you get a new game, like, a lot of the time the map is like shut and you have to go around to discover it before it unlocks, because you don't know what you don't know. So like, if I didn't quit a job and go to this place or quit a job and go to that place, you wouldn't have known what existed. I probably wouldn't have known the opportunity of podcasting if I didn't just sort of take a gamble and be like, forget the degree, let me go there. So if you're unhappy in where you are, I think fake confidence, just change direction entirely and find something brand new, because you'll meet somebody who opens your eyes to something, or you'll learn something new, and then you realize what's available. And then something that I've learned from a podcast, and My First Million is my favorite show, they talk about your ability and your opportunity. For example, you could have level 10 ability in marketing, sales, charisma, design, taste, all these things, and own a restaurant. And you could have like a lovely restaurant that's designed great, you're pretty full all the time, you know, locally people know you and you're like the go-to restaurant. And you might work 80 hours a week at that restaurant, and you'll probably be capped at like 100 grand to take home. And Elon Musk is doing just as many hours, and he can earn billions just because the opportunity is completely different. And I see this in podcasting all the time. Like, if there's a business show on how other people can scale, like, I don't know, their SaaS business, and there's another one that's like a mental health podcast, it's like, well, that one's going to earn more money because it's in a better opportunity. I don't know, like, I'm sorry to tell you, but it is. So if it's money people want, they need to consider what opportunity they're in, I think is important, because you can put just as much effort in, and one feels like graft and really demoralizing, and the other's like, not too bad.
You never know which door's going to open next. A little bit like networking, behind every person could be an open door for you. So something I hear a lot with networking is, oh, I don't need to speak to that person because they don't really, they've got nothing to do with what I do. But you never know what is behind each and every person.
Yeah, who do they know?
Yeah. And so, I think what you're saying is like, you weren't actually saying fake it till you make it, but you were saying be confident even if you don't feel it, which is brilliant advice. And then just keep going, perseverance, right? Keep opening those doors.
Yeah, I think just like law of compounding, if you was to speak to no people a week or speak to 10 people every week, it's like, great. Now that's over the course of the year, over 500 people. But if every single one of those people shows you 3 more people, so do that for 5 years.
You're obviously going to get far better results.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know, logic.
Yeah.
It's just a numbers game.
All right.
That's a rookie error, that, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's a classic mistake of a podcaster is to not realise that you've set an alarm on your phone. So there we go. I'm going to call that my time to call this a close. So Kane, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm not going to turn that alarm off because shit happens, mistake happens.
It does, lean into it.
I will learn from this. And I've loved interviewing you in your own studio as well. Cool. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Namaste. Have a nice day. Thank you, Kane, so much.
Thank you.
Join a dynamic community of driven entrepreneurs, professionals, and industry leaders who are passionate about growth and like-minded individuals who inspire, support, and empower you to reach new heights. Expand your network and connect with a diverse range of professionals across various industries. Increase your visibility and showcase your expertise and services in a relaxed atmosphere. Learn from industry experts, attend workshops, and stay ahead of the thread. Build genuine connections that can lead to new clients, partnerships, and collaborations. Boost your confidence. Surround yourself with a supportive community that believes in your success. So don't miss out on this opportunity to ignite your business growth. Join Spark Business Networking to unlock endless possibilities for your entrepreneurial journey. Spark Business Networking, where connections ignite success.